Well, again, my name is Kristen Woods, and I am a community development manager in the southern region of Ohio. I'm coming to you from my apartment in Cincinnati. So today we are learning all about jewelry and working on the Junior Jeweler Badge. So Junior Girl Scouts are fourth and fifth grade Girl Scouts, but if you are any age Girl Scout or not even a Girl Scout, you are welcome to join in and enjoy making our upcycled necklace that we're going to make today, which I'm actually wearing a version of it right now. So the badge steps, so there are 5 steps to this badge. So the first one is learning the tools of the trade. So learning the tools that you would need to do some jewelry making. The second step is to make jewelry out of metal. The third step, which we're also going to do today, is using everyday materials to make a piece of jewelry. The fourth step is making a piece of jewelry inspired from a different culture. And then the fifth step is to make a sparkling gift for someone. So just making a piece of jewelry for a friend or a family member, someone you care about. And those are the 5 steps of the badge. But we're going to start with step 1, which is learning some tools of the trade. And what's really fun about jewelry making is that there are some traditional tools, but then, there are some non-traditional tools too. And a lot of them you actually have already around your house. So something that I always like to have for jewelry making, so 2 main things. I like to have a pair of scissors. So I have my scissors here today. But I also like to have a variety of different needles. And the reason for that is if you're making beaded jewelry, that really helps to string the beads onto some thread. So those are 2 things that you might already have in a sewing kit or something like that. I also like to have a ruler. This is a really great way to kind of measure out what you're working on. And I also like to have a flexible ruler. So this is one that I have from my sewing kit. I use it to, measure fabric. But what a flexible ruler like this is really good for with jewelry making is if you're measuring something to fit yourself or someone else. So say you're going to make a bracelet for someone. Well, not everybody has the same size wrist. So what you can do is you can use this to wrap around to see exactly how long you need to make a piece of jewelry to fit someone. So this is a really good tool to have as well. Now, a tool that you may not have yet that is really helpful in jewelry making is a pair of jeweler's pliers. So I'm going to hold that up. So jeweler's pliers can be found at any craft store, but also at even like a Target or a Walmart in their crafting section. So what's really nice about jeweler's pliers is they're small, they're really easy to use, really flexible. But this is going to come in handy if you're using metal. So whether you're using like a chain link for a chained necklace, it's really easy to open and close up links on the chain if you need to add or subtract chain links to a necklace. And it's also really good when you're shaping metal. So sometimes we use jeweler wire to, wrap precious stones or even to bend into a cool design of its own. So that's what the nose of the pliers does. It helps you to bend the metal. And that's really going to help save your fingers because it really hurts after a while if you're trying to either bend open chain links or if you're trying to bend jeweler wires. So this is a really good tool to have. And then another feature of the pliers, so we just talked about the nose of the pliers and how you can use those to bend and shape metal. But then right here in the center, right here, that is a wire cutter. So scissors don't really work very well when cutting jeweler's wire or any wire for that matter, but this is specifically made for cutting wire. So it has kind of a dual purpose and it's all in one tool. These are very inexpensive, but it's a great tool to have, especially when working with metal. So those are just some of the basic tools of the trade. If you were to get a little bit more complicated, say you started working with leather, you might have to invest in something like a leather puncher or an embossing tool or something like that. But these are just some pretty basic tools that you need. So that's step 1. So we already have that out of the way. So let's go ahead and get into what we're going to make today, which is an upcycled t-shirt necklace. So a lot of the time we get t-shirts, from one-time events or something like that that we never use again, or we grow out of our clothing and then we don't know what to do. So this is a great way to repurpose clothing that you don't wear anymore, and specifically t-shirts. So again, I'm wearing a version of the necklace here. So I have kind of brown as the tie here that's going to connect the necklace. And the main part of it is green. So you can wear the necklace hiding that tie behind there, or you can wear it like this. I prefer to wear it like this because I like to be able to see this band. And I work with two colors normally, but you don't have to. It can be one solid color. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. But when selecting a t-shirt, I also prefer to pick a t-shirt that does not have a seam showing inside. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I have a couple t-shirts here. So on the inside, on like the side here, there might be a seam, and on this t-shirt there is a seam here, and you can see it. I tend to not like to use this just because the seams can kind of jut out, but it actually can be a cool design element, so it's really what you prefer. So that's what I mean by a seam. So I'm going to set this aside, and then the two t-shirts I have here on the side, there's no seam, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I have them turned inside out, so there's no seam, and this is what I prefer to use, but again, you use whatever you'd like. So what we'll do is, for this necklace, I have two different colored blue t-shirts here. I have a darker blue and a lighter blue. So for the darker blue, I'm going to use that for my base of the t-shirt. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut strips all the way across, and we're going to keep this kind of circle here that the t-shirt has. I'm going to keep that intact. So what we need to do is, the first thing we need to do is cut off this bottom hem, okay? So it's just the bottom of the t-shirt where it's hemmed. So we're going to cut that off, but we'll save it because that can be used later in another t-shirt or on the same t-shirt. It doesn't matter. But we're going to go ahead and cut off the hem. So got my scissors out, and we are going to cut all the way across. And it's okay if it's not a perfect cut. That's not going to matter, because this is going to roll on top of itself. And on this one end, so what I accidentally did here was I cut the loop, but that's okay on the hem. It's doing the other strips that you don't want to cut the loop. You want to keep the fabric in a loop. So I'm going to set this aside. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 4 1-inch strips. So this is where you can get out your ruler. And I like to do 1 inch to about 1.5 inch strips. So I'm just going to eyeball it, but if it helps you to use the ruler, then use the ruler. But I'm going to do about 4 strips of the dark blue, about 1 to 1.5 inches wide. So you can kind of see here how wide I'm doing that. And again, I want to make sure that I'm keeping this loop intact. And I'll show you as soon as I get cut through here what I mean. All right, so I've just cut across the t-shirt, and now I have a loop. All right, so we want to make sure we have the loop intact. All right, so that's 1 down, and I have 3 more to go. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect cuts because we're going to stretch out this fabric, and any kind of jagged edges you might get are going to fold over on themselves. So that's okay. And I'm using a pair of fabric scissors today, but you can use whatever scissors you'd like. I just like to use my fabric scissors because they're meant for cutting fabric. All right, that's 3 and 1 more to go. All right, now I'm going to fold this and set it aside, but you can use this for later projects, so don't feel like you need to throw the rest of the t-shirt away. You can use it for later projects. So now I have my light blue t-shirt. So what I'm going to use on this light blue t-shirt, since I'm using the darker blue as the base of my necklace, so on this necklace, it's green. But for the lighter blue, I'm going to use it for the binding up here. So, and what I'm going to use on that is this bottom hem. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut off the bottom hem. Right, and that's all I'm going to use on this t-shirt for now. But again, save the rest of it for later. You might find a cool project to do later with it. So we're going to set that to the side. And all right, so the first thing we're going to do, we have our 4 blue strips, our darker blue strips. So what you're going to do with each one of them is you're going to stretch them. And just do it gently. You don't have to get crazy with it. So I like to stretch it just a few times. And what's happening to the fabric, and you'll see this, is that it's rolling on top of itself. So it's kind of making this smooth, rolled piece of fabric, okay? So that's what we're going to do with each of these pieces. We're going to go ahead and stretch out each one and make sure that fabric gets rolled over. And so any of those jagged edges you might have had, they're just folded under. All right, and then the 4th one. All right, so now I have 4 loops that are folded over, kind of this rolled fabric. So what I'm going to do, so if I were to use this how it is now, so that's a pretty long necklace. We want to shorten it up. So what we're going to do is if you hold your loop and then twist, and then we're going to bring these 2 ends together. So what I'm going to show you now is at the top, we kind of have this X where we twisted it and crossed it over. That's where we're going to put the binding, okay? So I'm going to set this down. And I'm going to get out our light blue piece here. So this you are going to cut out of the loop. All right, so just cut it anywhere, it's fine. And then this is where you want to get your ruler out, because you can do as big of a binding as you'd like. So this, it's maybe 2 to 3 inches. But you can make it as big as you'd like. You can make it as small as you'd like. It's really up to you. But I like to have at least 12 inches of fabric to work with. So I have my ruler here, gonna get to the 12 inches, and I'm just going to snip. All right, so I have 12 inches of fabric here to work with. I'll put the rest over here. And I like to save all my scraps of fabric because you never know what you can use it for. You might use it on another necklace or another project. So I like kind of save it and keep it around. All right, so what we're going to do with this piece is we're going to wrap it around. And I'm going to get closer to the camera here so you can see what I'm doing. So again, we have where we cross the fabric up here. And what we'll do is we're going to start wrapping. And it's important to hold one hand here and the other hand controls the wrapping. Every time you wrap, you want to stretch this a little bit and then go over. All right, and stretch and go over, stretch and go over. And so what you'll see here is I'm starting to kind of slowly overlap this. So the fabric is going over this way. And we're going to stretch and go over, stretch and go over, and then stretch. And once you have about this much fabric left, we're going to tuck it into here. So I just do it with my finger. I just tuck it into the last fold I made. But if you're having trouble getting your finger in there, you can use a pen. That's a good way to get it in there, or a pencil. Pen has to have the lid on. You don't want to get ink on there. Or you could use the, if you have those jeweler pliers, you can use the nose of the pliers to get it in there. And it's nice and fastened. And there is our finished necklace. So how you get these necklaces on and off is you just stretch them over your head. So I'm going to go ahead and put this new one on. Okay. So all those different colored blues. And voila, I have my necklace. And that's all you have to do. No sew, no anything. So you have a finished necklace, and feel free to show it off. Now, there are some variations that you can do in this necklace, and I hope that you get really creative with it, okay? So I'll show you some other versions. So this is really the bare bones. This is the simple version of the necklace, but if you wanted to get fancy, so some things you can do is add things to your necklace. So I have a necklace I have here, and I've got a little pin on here that I put on. It's a little sloth pin my friend gave me. So that's one way that you can also adorn the necklace, make it a little bit different. I also have necklaces where I've mixed the color strands. So I have a gray and red t-shirt here with a red binding up here. For this one, I've braided the t-shirts, the t-shirt yarn that I've made, and I did that and tied it. So this is a black and gray one, tied it with the gray. This one I've added, I made some little flowers out of felt and made sort of the center of it a button and sewed those on. And I also made about half the necklace with the hanging strands and then half of it with the binding. And then this one, I made it mostly binding. And then I have a nice little flower here and just a few of those loose strands. So you can really get creative with it. Do whatever you would like with it. I would love to see your finished product. So if you are doing this necklace today or even later, I would love to see you post them in the comments. And just get real creative with it. You don't have to do what I did. And again, if you have a lot of t-shirts laying around, you can make more than one. All right, so that completes step 3. So we used an everyday object to make a piece of jewelry. So, and we already did step 1. We talked about the tools of the trade. So step 2 is going to be making something with metal. And I suggest you kind of look at all the different jewelry around that is made with metal. So maybe you can ask your mom or dad to see what kind of jewelry they have to get inspired, or you can even look up metal jewelry and kind of just see the different examples that are out there. One of my favorite things to do is to get some jeweler wire and wrap a polished stone. And another way to get inspired is just go to the store or even go to like Michael's online or anything and just get inspired by their jewelry section. You may see something that you're like, oh, I want to work with that. That looks really cool. So step number 4 is going to be make a piece of jewelry inspired by another culture. And then step number 5, you need to make a piece of jewelry for someone and give it to them. So those are the steps that remain in the junior jewelry